Hey everyone, I hope you are having a wonderful day so far. I am just dropping this special little clip into all the episodes. So, no matter what episode you're listening to, this is actually pretty current as of July 2024. I wanted to come on here and just say a big thank you to Earworthy because the Life Shift podcast was just named the best overall podcast of the year in the first Earworthy Independent Podcast Awards. And you've probably seen some articles written about the Life Shift podcast before, written by Earworthy. And now he is launching from his online publication, he is launching these yearly winners of independent podcast awards. And these are specifically for indie podcasters. We are those that wear all the hats. We create the show. Some people write the show. We're producers, sound engineers. We troubleshoot all the tech. We do any kind of research if we need to. We host the shows. We distribute the shows. We do all the things that relate to our shows because we love it. And it's so nice to see my name in a list with some other amazing podcasts like Multispective, which won Best Life Lessons Podcast. Salad with a Side of Fries won Best Health Podcast. Bippity Boppity Business won Best Business Advice Podcast. And there are so many more. And so I just want to come on here and say thank you to Earworthy for not only doing these awards every year and just honoring some of us indie podcasters that sometimes feel like we're just shouting into the void, but we're not. We're just doing what brings us joy, and hopefully through that work it brings other people joy. In my case, for the Life Shift, I hope that each episode finds the ears that needed to hear it the most so that they feel a little less alone in their circumstance. But also, Earworthy writes all these amazing publications pretty much weekly, every week, every weekday, I should say, where he writes on Blogger, Medium, Substack, Tumblr, Vocal, Many Stories, and for other places. And he really just highlights the independent podcasters. So thank you, Frank, for everything you do with Earworthy and for recognizing all of us in the first Earworthy Independent Podcast Awards. If you'd like to read more, please head to medium.com/EAR hyphen WORTHY. Thanks again and enjoy this episode. I'm Matt Gilhooly, and this is The Life Shift, candid conversations about the pivotal moments that change lives forever. My friend, thank you for joining me on the Life Shift podcast. My goal here is to highlight the pivotal moments that have changed people's lives forever, and I've known you long enough, I think. How long have we known each other?
Oh my goodness. Since we were wee lads.
We were,
back in high school.
So I calculated it, actually, and that was a silly question. It's 24 years ago that we may or may not have been on the stage together.
Maybe not.
Do you remember those days?
Very, very lightly, because I don't remember. I remember being around all of that, but I don't remember, like, I danced, but I definitely didn't act, and I certainly didn't sing. And, like, I remember wanting to be around all of it, but I don't know if I was ever really on the stage. I think I was just hanging out because Carrie was there.
Well, yeah. But she was fantastic, so we can't be upset.
She's fantastic.
About that. Maybe she'll listen to this and she'll be so happy that we called her out. I should say, your name is Shanna Benson, and you are a baker extraordinaire.
I am a baker extraordinaire, yes, and an event planner. And all the things.
Such as? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what do you do? What's your everyday?
I have a full-time job, a side hustle, and then I've got my passion. So I work in restaurant marketing and finance by day. By night, I plan events and do things for the city of Pompano Beach. I'm also a communication strategist for the city. And I bake anything and everything that your little heart desires for my business, my bakery, No Regrets Dessert Company. I like to think that I have the best desserts in any town, but I definitely have them here.
I'm wondering, do you sleep?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
I do. Actually, I do. It's really weird. I don't understand. I'm very thankful because all of my jobs kind of like go together and I'm able to multitask. I used to be a 911 dispatcher and I can multitask like a pro. So I actually do have really good work-life balance. So I sleep about 6 hours every night. That's really all I need. Anything more than that is overkill for me, but everything kind of all intertwines. So like I can be on a phone while I'm baking cupcakes and getting things done over here and be in the on the road and going to see clients and kind of making two things happen at once. So I've been very lucky. I curated my life well in that.
All right, so that's kind of why I wanted to have you on the show, because I think that you've curated, I like that word, your life in a way that's inspiring to other people. And in fact, you've inspired me, or AKA pushed me to do certain things. Remember you were like, hey, you know how to do a little bit of art. Maybe you can make some logos for me. Maybe you can do a little design work for me. And I was like, I don't know. And now I'm doing that for other people and actually making a couple dollars here and there. So I appreciate that. But I want to talk about how you curated your life. So how long ago do you think was like the thing that switched to something new for you? Like how long ago was that?
That was about 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
Yeah, it was 6 years ago. I can remember that exact moment where it kind of all started.
Where were you before this moment? Like what were you doing? Who were you?
Before this moment, okay, so setting it up, I was working at the city. I was the director of marketing for the city of Pompano Beach, and I was working essentially like a PR job, right? 24 hours a day, where you have your 9 to 5 that turns into your 9 to 7 or 8, and then you go to an event, and then it's a crisis happens in the middle of the night, and now you're working, trying to get that solved, and just going through this loop day in and day out. And while I really loved it and I loved everything about that job, except for obviously the amount of hours, my personal life had really taken a shift. Everything that I had worked for personally, those goals that I had set, having a house and a home, and I was married, wanting to have a family, wanting, kind of this whole like white picket fence life just went sour. I, started going through a divorce, found out that my husband had been cheating on me. We were together for 14 years, and everything that I had built and this whole entire goal and dream in life had just came crashing down on the floor around me. And I for a while, for a hot minute there, like I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what the next step was going to be. I had always had this dream because I bake for fun. It was always my like, Zen moment. Some people do yoga, some people, go for a run. I would come home and bake, and it was the one thing that always just got me out of my head. It got that like chatter that's inside. It would stop it. And I could just bake, listen to some Frank Sinatra and zone out. And so I'd always said, one day down the road, like we're going to move to Italy and I'm going to open this little tiny bake shop, or we're going to, move into this small, like quaint little town and have that like Gilmore Girls dream town. Right. And open this bakery. And it was always just that like pipe dream. And as all of this stuff started to unravel and, I started to see everything starting to move away from what my current lifestyle was, I started to think like, I don't know I don't know what I'm going to do next. Like, I'm not making enough money to live in South Florida, and I'm not comfortably in South Florida. And I just don't know what I'm going to do. I had no idea. And one day I walked out, and I was in the middle of, trying to figure out like, was I going to get a divorce? We hadn't even filed for a divorce at that point. We were quote unquote trying to work it out or trying to figure it out or whatever. We were just in this like cycle, right? This pattern of like, there were no answers. And I opened the door. My mailbox was one of those mailboxes that's on your door, like right by your door, right? Open the door, right. Reach my hand in, and I grab out the mail. And inside of that mailbox was a credit card and it was a credit card and a document for a business that had been started that my husband at the time started without my knowledge. And he had, I don't even remember the name. It was something security company, right? And he had always talked about that he was going to do that at some point, whatever. And I literally stood there with those two things, that credit card and that Florida, division of corporation paper in my hand, turned around and said, screw it. Today is the day I will make those changes for myself, because while we're in this pattern, he is clearly moving forward with his life, and I am not going to let my dreams wait until something is decided. I walked back in the house, I shut the door, walked back in the house, threw the papers on the table, called a divorce attorney, filed for divorce, listed my house for sale, and quit my job within 24 hours.
Wow. So just a small
Yeah.
shift is what you're saying. Just like
It was
minor.
a very small, minor blip on the radar.
Now, here's a question that maybe doesn't matter, but did you take that credit card and then spend a lot of money and it was only in your ex-husband's name?
So I didn't, because I
You were
I
attached.
was like a deer in headlights. Like, I didn't even know what I was like. I don't even know what to do with this. So I literally just left it sitting there. I may or may not have spent it on another credit card. I may or may not have ended up in Mexico getting massages and margaritas on the beach with my best friend.
Hey, that's how you kick off a life shift.
Exactly. We shifted right into Mexico.
So it was really literally that moment of getting the mail and
Yeah,
seeing that your husband's or your ex-husband's new credit card and new business had just shown up in the mailbox, and you were like, you know what? My turn.
absolutely. Because for the year leading up to that, like going backwards, we had some problems. I wasn't sure what was going on. I didn't know if he was cheating on me or had a drug problem, or like what that scenario was. But I had felt like I had to help and I had to get there. And then the day that came that I found out that he had an affair with another woman, and you would think that that would have been the shift, right? Like at that moment, and it
Right.
didn't. And I stood there for a year, like, what are we doing? I don't know, because I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to change. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea.
Well, it wasn't your moment.
It just wasn't. And so for a year, I was like, I'm not going to do this because of this. And I'm not going to do this because of this. Like everything was, I was trying to calculate what the next step was. At that moment, like nothing else had changed. We were still living in the same house together, going through motions, right? And when that credit card came, in that, like, it was like my eyes just saw it, right? Like everything flashed before my eyes. Like I'm done. Like I have to be out of this, because he's looking out for himself and he's looking out for his future. I have not done anything to look out for my future. I have to make a change, because if I want this, I have to do this, right? And that was really like what that moment was. And I just saw my life kind of flash before my eyes. And it was just things have to be done. And everything from that moment just started to re-ravel. Like, the year before everything was unraveling and I just started picking up the pieces.
Well, maybe that was life, setting you up to kind of move in the right direction. Maybe you needed that year of kind of waffling or being unsure.
I always say, like, from a spiritual, right, or like a religious standpoint, that like I I call it the rapture, right? Like I've always said,
It's
like,
big.
it is. And I think for years, or like God had putting things in front of me and saying, like, here's an like alternative, go this way, do this, do that. And like when I would, like, be on my knees, like crying and freaking out, and I would just hear over and over, like, I had to send you through the rapture for you to walk away to get to where you're meant to be. And I just wasn't listening. And it was just in that moment that was like, if you think this is happening, like, let me show you who he really is. Let me show you what is really happening. And from there, and listing the house and filing for divorce, everything started to piece itself back together. It was like the bricks stopped falling, right? Like all of the
Right.
crazy, and it just started to build. The rebuilding started to happen, and that was that moment. Like I can play it back like a movie in my head.
It's very defined, and you're probably in a weird way grateful for that moment, right? Well, not in a weird way, in a great moment, because it pushed you to where you are now. After Mexico and
Yes.
after your margaritas and after your massages, you came back, and what was like the first thing you did? Because your house was listed, right? You had
Yep.
filed for divorce. You quit your job. So now what?
Let me give some advice to everyone. Don't do those three things together. Maybe like take a little slighter life shift.
Yeah.
I just started to finally move. I just started to finally move on getting my life piece back together. So I knew that I wanted to start my business. I incorporated my business as soon as the paperwork was filed. So I filed for incorporation so that at that point, like, confirmed it with my attorney that I could do it and he would have no rights to my future, business. Started working on getting contracts with the city and the chamber and, doing events on the side versus being in that, in that public realm, and started looking for somewhere to live because I was trying and hoping to hold on to this house and stay there, and it just wasn't working out. Really quickly realized that if you don't have a job with verifiable income, you can't live anywhere.
Hence your recommendation of not doing all three at once.
Right. Keep your job, move, get a place, then quit your job. And that was, probably the biggest struggle at that point was trying to get past all of that while also trying to start my business and also trying to pick myself up mentally, right?
Right.
I literally had to put pieces back together from a shattered frame.
Right. Because everything you knew about your personal life had completely changed,
Completely.
even though you probably knew here and there the year before.
Yeah, I mean, and it just everything changed. I had never lived alone. I had moved out of my parents' house and into his house. I'd moved in with a roommate at some point, but I had never been alone. Like I'd never paid a bill 100% by myself. I never did any of those things. So much so that when I got divorced, like I didn't have enough credit for anything. Like
Oh.
my all of my credit was on his credit. So I had been on his car insurance. I had been, you know, I had a card on all of his credit cards. I didn't have FP&L or water or any of that. It was all in his name because we started dating when we were young in our 20s, and I just moved into his house and kind of stayed there. And so I had to literally build the infrastructure to even put the foundation down and just started doing that. And literally a lot of my business was built out of fear because I was afraid of not being able to do that. And it just kept me moving forward. Like I have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to bake. I have to do this. I would stay up and I'd call them cake naps instead of cat naps, where I would put a cake in the oven and then put my head on the counter and sleep for 20 minutes while it was baking.
I could use a cake nap right now.
Right? Oh, it would be so great.
Yeah.
But I could only bake one cake at a time, one tray of cupcakes.
In your apartment.
Yeah. I was in my house and I only had one small Amana oven, and was coming out of a house that I had two double ovens.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to burn and churn through a lot more when I was there, just personally, not even like from a professional standpoint.
Right. Well, to that personal point about like how cupcakes kind of were your yoga, if you will, I feel like you've told me before, but you would sometimes just bake for the sake of baking, not to eat it or to do any of those kind of things. It was just the action of kind of creating these recipes and baking things.
I literally just would. It's the one thing, and even still to this day, it's the one thing. Like I can't pay attention to anything else when I am doing the science of baking.
Right? Because it is a science.
Putting in it is. Yeah, and so
precise.
When I'm measuring stuff out and looking and working on that precision, it is then the only thing I found that stops me from everything else, answering my phone, thinking about life, thinking about the hard things, all of that. And it's just always been that great space for me. Cooking is different because you can wing it, right?
Right.
But baking is so precise. So when I would have a really stressful day at work, I would come home and bake 400 cupcakes and try these new recipes. And then
And then what do you do with 400 cupcakes?
you set them on a table in the front of in your living room and call everyone you know to come get them. Or I did this a lot. I donated them to a lot of places.
Yeah.
Like I would go drop them off to like a hospital or drop them off. I used to be, like I said, a 911 dispatcher, so I would take them to the dispatch center for the first, for the first responders. I took them to some fire stations. I got in trouble by, I was married at the time. I delivered them to homeless people.
Yeah.
Like I was just delivering like a dozen cupcakes to a homeless person everywhere.
I mean, cake and yeah, dessert brings joy. So you started the business, and then what was like the first milestone that you feel like really boosted you to the next level of that business? Because I want to eventually get to where you are now, but like, what was that first
Yeah.
milestone that made you feel like, okay, this is what I should be doing and I can do it and support myself
Yeah.
through it?
So Easter of that year, which was 4 months after I had filed for divorce and did all of that, I was moving out of the houses. The divorce was getting final 2 weeks later. I was moving out of the house in a month, and I decided to do my first ever real like sale where it was priced at market price, and I was trying to reach people who weren't just friends, weren't just whatever. I listed it, Easter cupcakes for sale. I was selling them out of my house. People could come pick them up, and I sold out. I sold 700 cupcakes
Wow.
for Easter that first year. And I didn't believe that they were worth anything. Like I just like this is all being done in vain. Like nobody's going to buy these.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, I have verbal commitments, but people just say they'll buy it and then just not.
Right.
I remember I went to Restaurant Depot. I bought 50 pounds of flour and 35 pounds of butter, like, 30 dozen eggs, like all of this stuff. And it was in my car. And I just remember looking back and I was like, I don't know what we're doing here, but we got a lot of flour and sugar and stuff. So we're making something happen. Gonna be some happy homeless people later. And I even bought like bottles of champagne and offered like a glass of champagne when you picked them up because I was sure that no one was coming, right?
Right.
And I just ended up I had not a line of people, but just a consistent flow of people coming. And I had the cupcakes set up, and you just took a container and picked out the whatever 12
Mm-hmm.
you wanted, and they were $20. And we just had it was such a fun day where like all these people came that I knew, and like they were like, we're so happy you're finally doing this, like, and we had like I had somebody drive an hour south to come get them. And the humbling thing is over the years, like even with like our friendship and other people that we went to high school with and people that I worked with 20 years ago, people who met me one day and follow me and then show up at an event.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I am so proud and humbled that I've managed to keep those relationships over the years, and those people come back and support me. And
Mm-hmm.
it is the craziest feeling when that happens.
Well, speaking from a person in that friend group, we're all proud of you. I mean, the things that you've done, and I wanted people to hear your story that like, I mean, baking for a lot of people is something they enjoy doing. And if they enjoy doing it enough, you could really do something big, like 700 cupcakes in your first kind of outing of selling them. It's pretty impressive, I would say.
I really appreciate that. Like it's the thing that like helps me move forward. Like if you know somebody, if you're listening to this and you know somebody that is starting a business or doing something, like find a way to support them because it is like it's the biggest like driver, it's almost like that like dopamine of like a drug, right? Like that feeling of love that somebody that you don't see every day, you don't talk to every day. I didn't see somebody in 15 years and they ordered cupcakes from me and were like, come in, we wanted to say hi to you, we're so proud of you. Like that's craziest thing to me when that happens.
Yeah, and to be fair, everyone listening, I'm like 200 miles away from Shauna right now, and so I can't really order the cupcakes because, they wouldn't be as
They
beautiful
wouldn't be
when they got here
delightful.
because we know, shipping is not that
Hmm.
great. But I try to support in however I can, and I'm always just like, I love seeing the things that you create. And so you started your first version of this business, right? And so now,
Hmm.
what is it, just even like 6 months ago, you've kind of
Yep.
rebranded and you've started a little bit of a new venture and it's opened a couple doors. Can we talk about any of that?
Yeah. So, and that
I know
kind
some
of
of
came
it's
out of
secret.
some of it is secret, but that is even, another shift. Like over the years, I've been working so hard, and Benson's Bake Shop was created out of need and desire, like that need to make money and do things. And it it kind of just it never took life as a brand. It was never meant as a brand. And I went to Seattle, and it was my first time traveling alone. I'd always wanted to go on a journey by myself, and I'd been planning it for years. And then COVID happened and I didn't get to make it to Europe. So I ended up going to Seattle and just had this epiphany walking down the sound, in Seattle, that Benson's Bake Shop needed to die. Which sounds so weird. I needed something that, and it wasn't necessary, and it had no other reason than that I had never connected with that as a brand. I never like made a brand out of it. And like brands should be unique. They should have kind of their own personality. And immediately came up with No Regret. Like, what is it that whatever, and No Regrets Desserts. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a cute name. Whoever has that, that is like adorable. And I sat on the beach at the Puget Sound in Seattle and Googled it, and I was like, does that not exist as a brand? Like, are you kidding me? No Regrets and dessert company. And part of it was that I kept getting asked about my bakery, and I don't have plans of opening a traditional bakery,
Right.
especially because the word really is defined with like breads and pastries. And when you think of a bakery, you kind of have a vision, and I was never going to do that. So changing it to dessert company really defined who I was and what I was putting on the table for you. And the No Regrets had so many in 5 minutes that I had a brand. Like,
Right.
No Regrets Dessert Company. You'll never regret. The only bite you'll ever regret is the one you didn't take. No regrets on eating it. No regrets of my life and everything I went through. Like, it just culminated everything together. And then changing it with Dessert Company, it was like, it literally was like a little human was born. Like,
Yeah.
it had a personality in 2 minutes.
Right. It's a fate intervening again.
It was just, sitting sitting on the beach, enjoying, gorgeous scenery and really thinking that through. And it was, those are kind of like those two defining moments. And from there, not only did that shift occur again, where like my business started to take off, but like I just started putting that effort in a different way and making each step of that business more meaningful. I didn't just like, pin jello on a wall and hope that it sticks. Like, I started to really be like focused on what I was doing. I wanted to make it onto a reality show for baking. I set these goals, and I had never set goals in my business. It was just like, I'll set out at a market and see if I sell, and I'll do this and I'll see if it sells. And like, I started to build like a 5-year strategic plan for my business.
It sounds like you started adding confidence to your brand and you.
Absolutely. And it made
Mm-hmm.
sense. And all of a sudden it clicked and everything made sense. And it was in that moment. I went out afterwards, I got in the car and I drove to a town down the street, and there was an ice cream place there. And like the thought of like, I mean, it was like an adulty ice cream place, and all the pieces, like it was like, I found that, I found this, I found it all came together just in that week that I was in Seattle. I wasn't even supposed to be working. I was supposed to be just enjoying it. And I just started like putting together spreadsheets and putting together stuff on my computer at night, and really just got into it. And I feel I for the first time felt really like connected to it. From there, it just, it just started to work, I guess. I I think more people connect to that brand than they did the foo-foo-y, Benson's Bake Shop, and
Hmm.
it has a look. I didn't realize some of the things I was holding on to. I never built a website for Benson's Bake Shop.
Really?
Like I never, yeah, I never printed T-shirts. I had business cards and I had a banner, and that was really it. And in the week I got back, I built a website, printed T-shirts, and I I don't know why. I don't know why one was different than the other for me, but just making that simple change, I sometimes think of it that like Benson's really was the thing, that Benson's Bake Shop was really the thing that started, but maybe it held on to some internal like angst against it, right? Like maybe I just wasn't moving forward with it because I wasn't it was built out of necessity, not out of like love, right? And when I started building No Regrets, like it was really out of like, holy shit, I'm making this happen. Like it is going to work, and like everything started to fall in place. And it really has been a wild ride, and even just the last 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, before we go into whatever you can share about that, I feel like you talked about how you had to go through the rapture. I didn't mean to laugh on that. You had to go through the rapture of that year. So maybe Benson's Bake Shop was that period of time. And then I remember when you were talking about we won't say what year it was, but you were going to go to Europe to celebrate a particular birthday. And you had all these like extravagant plans and you were going to go all over the place. And then life said, nope, you're going to hold off on that. And
Hmm.
maybe that was all part of it, because you ended up in Seattle to create that, because of, kind of those
Yeah,
shifts of not being able to do that one trip. Like, who knows where you would be now had you gone to Europe.
a lot of that though, like because we talked a lot during COVID, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we both like experienced stress and all of that went along with what the world was going through, but not going to Europe. And also remember, I had also been contracted at that point for MasterChef, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which had nothing at all to do with my baking. It was cooking. Then I didn't make it onto MasterChef in the end because of COVID. And then I didn't get to go to Europe, and I didn't get to have my, we won't say what year, birthday party that I
Yeah.
was
20th, I
planning.
think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so crazy. I wasn't even able to drink, and yet such a lover of red wine. But what I did get to have that really made a difference for me was I got to have 3 months quarantined alone in my house to introduce myself to myself.
Yeah.
And during that time, I, for the first time, wore my hair up. I hadn't worn my hair in a bun or outside of my face in 10 or 15 years. I was afraid of showing my face because I thought I was ugly and had a fat face, and I just always wore it down. I, for the first time, started wearing yoga pants outside of the house when I wasn't going to the gym. I had, for the last 15 years, put on makeup every time I walked outside of the house, and high heels, and was dressed to the nines. Like for the first time, I was like, I don't want to do this. And then I randomly started watching videos on TikTok, and watching people on TikTok be themselves and just be an organic version of who they really were was like, holy crap, like this person has 7 million followers and is sitting in their pajamas without their hair done, just telling a funny story. Like, and people are following that person because they're organically that, right? Like that's who they are. And I'm sure obviously there's a show, whatever, like the fact that people didn't care, like they don't care what that person looks like. They don't care about that. And it allowed me to just start to be myself again. I really think doing that and doing TikTok, which is so crazy that this is even coming out of my mouth, allowed me to accept myself again because I could go back and watch it. And
Right.
I was like, I'm not like a swamp donkey. Like, I'm not that fat. Like, it's, I'm okay. Like, I live I'm a fair medium 7, right? Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm okay with this. Like, I'm not in the bottom, right? And I'm also not a dumpster fire of a human.
No.
And I just accepted that, like, I am actually like a really good catch. Like, I'm a really good, like, I'm in the upper echelon here. I'm good.
And TikTok did that all for you.
And TikTok did that all for me.
Man.
And it was just being alone. And
Yeah.
like, and then I also wasn't, uh, I think I told you this during it. Like, I was actually more concerned as to why I really enjoyed being alone than
Right.
why, right? I was like, I'm actually wondering if I should see a therapist as to why this isn't bothering me. Like, and I really loved it. So it was, again, life changing for me to be in that moment, and it helped me grow the confidence to start
Mm-hmm.
doing those things. And so if I had gone to Europe and if I had been on MasterChef and I hadn't had that moment, like, I would have my hair and makeup done right now, which obviously you can't see because my camera's not working, but I'm really good with this hobo chic look I have going on. Like,
No, I mean, and I don't think you're alone in the fact that during this pandemic, there have been a lot of positive things for people and self-discovery and those kind of things. Same here. But
yeah.
you certainly have kickstarted a brand new future. Like, what's next for No Regrets Dessert Company? Like, what's next in the cards?
So I did finally make it onto a Food Network show. We will get to watch that later this year. So,
Excellent.
yay.
I may or may not know anything.
You may or may not know anything at all, but you will know when you get to watch
I
it, and
can't wait.
you better watch it.
Well, I'm hoping there'll be a watch party at your house, and we'll
I
all
know.
go
I'm
down there.
hoping that you're coming down here to
Yeah.
watch it with me.
Mhm.
So that's kind of put a little more fuel to the fire for me. I'm opening a space. I'm leasing a new space, or not new, but my first space for the dessert company that I should be moving in by April, and hopefully open by the summer. So by the time it airs in later this year, I'll have an actual space that are able to do it. I'm moving out of my house and out of the commercial kitchen, and I'm going to make it real. It's going to be real. Like, it's,
Awesome.
and then we're going to start doing some stuff where, maybe in Orlando, you can get some stuff that will be shipped out. And becoming more of that, like, nationwide brand is really the goal. So,
Excellent. Well, I am looking forward to seeing what's next. I feel like I sometimes get a little preview and then it actually happens, which is super cool to see and super inspiring. As I said earlier, you're always kind of pushing me to push my own boundaries, and I appreciate that. And I hope that whoever's listening to this can also hear that, like, this just started as something that you love to do that calmed you down, and now it's like driving your life, which is so cool.
yeah.
So thinking about that, I mean, that pivotal moment was a rough period in your life, but
Mm-hmm.
it birthed this, right? So what are you most grateful for about opening that mailbox? Like, is there something that sticks to you?
Yeah. I'm most grateful for the opportunity to see it with concrete knowledge in my hand, that I think so often in relationships, whether they're friends or like intimate relationships, marriages, whatever, that we put so many other people ahead of us, right? And we constantly are like, I have to give this person and give and give and give. And then you give so much that you get to a point where there's nothing left of you to give. You're only giving that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even in those situations, like in this, where it wasn't ideal, we were really going down the road of getting divorced, and I was still giving everything I had to it in order to save it.
Right.
If I went back in time, I would have walked away so much earlier on, because my needs were no longer being met,
Right.
and I knew what was happening. In my gut, I knew what was there. I knew it was time to go. I knew it was time to walk away. And I chose someone else's life over my gut instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
if I could go back, I would need to listen to that and listen to that gut instinct, but both in the positive and the negative, right? Like, and I
right,
say this to you sometimes, like get to the core of what you want to do, get to the core of what, like let's talk about why, or like, what you have to do to move forward. Like,
right,
that thing. Like, and so in learning to listen to that on the negative side, right? It also forces you to, or like opens up the can of worms to like listen to it on the positive side. So if somebody else is saying like, no, this isn't going to work, or like, being on a show means that this, but like people are going to say this or whatever, like my gut instinct is to do it. So I'm not listening to those things that are going to hold me back. Like I just do it. I'm not looking for other people's opinion necessarily. Like if it's something negative, I'm going to hurt myself,
right,
obviously. Like I'm not going to skydive, right? Like without a parachute. But like listen to that gut
right.
but do it in the negative and in the positive.
Do you think if you had not opened that mailbox that day, you would be where you are?
I think I would have held on for a lot longer,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have believed in something. I would have believed in his words. I would have,
Right,
I would have held on longer. And I don't know what holding on longer would have done to me. In that year where things weren't changing and we were in that holding pattern,
mm-hmm.
I a lot of damage was done to me
Yeah, you lost yourself.
emotionally and mentally. I lost myself, but I also, I spent 5 years after that just trying to undo the damage
Mm-hmm.
that had been done. And if I would have held on any longer, like I don't know if I would have come out of it.
Yeah,
Like there was some really serious like mental damage that was done there in that holding pattern. And if I didn't see that at that point, like would I have been able to get out of that? Would I have been able to, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this, but the best way to say it is,
well, you already did.
right, because that's who I am. But would I have been able to unfuck myself? I don't know. Like
Right,
I was at a close period of that. I don't know if I took any more damage that I would have been okay.
right.
And that moment really changed it all, and it made me stand up for myself.
So, kind of distilling that down, it's almost as if your advice to someone that's kind of waffling in a position is to really listen to your gut and kind of take those chances on the things that bring you joy and fulfill you. Because if you don't, you never know how that's going to turn out. Would you say that's fair?
Absolutely. It's listening to your gut and not letting fear be the driver to your life, right?
Right.
Like I was afraid of what the other side would be. I was
Mm-hmm.
afraid that I wasn't going to be able to do this. And then when I saw that piece of mail, I realized that I just had to jump to the other side and start figuring it out. Because had I failed in the business, the reality of that is that I would have just had a different job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it would have been okay. I wasn't going to be homeless. I was going to either get a job doing something, and I had a good job. So the likeliness that I would get another good job was probable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there really was anything. The only thing holding me back was that I wasn't listening to my gut, and I was afraid of taking that next step. And then taking it, now you're just walking in the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just do it. Like, what is it going to do? And one of my favorite things, and I listen to it, or I've listened to it a lot, is just, going back, and TED Talks are great, and listening to all the failures that people have had, listening to the failures of Edison, listening to the failures of Einstein. Like we only know the positives, but how many times did it take to make the light bulb,
Right.
right? Like it was like 287 failures and one worked. I'm no different. Like I can just keep failing.
That's a lot of cupcakes.
It's a lot of cupcakes, right?
I was going to say, you know what I see in you now, in this version of you, is that you are opening every single door that is in front of you instead of going, what's behind it? I don't know. But you just kind of just walk
Yeah,
through and you're like, let's go. Let's go. If it doesn't work, that's okay.
absolutely. And that is like, and it really is like, just I have started living by the mantra that I take every single opportunity that presents itself. Some of them are going to work out and be phenomenal. Some of them are going to be a dumpster fire.
And you don't know which one is which.
You don't know which one is which. But the reality is that even the failures teach you, like, even the failures teach you, right? Like, you now know what did not work. And some of them, to be quite honest, you aren't on either part of that spectrum. Some opportunities are just meh or never come to fruition. But it's great because then you know that like, like a great opportunity for an event per se, like to do my cupcakes at, right? Like, it may not have panned, like, there was an event once and it didn't pan out that I was going to do, and it was going to be really huge. And then I didn't get an opportunity to do it like I thought I was going to, went to it, and what was supposed to be 5,000 people was maybe 50. And I would have overbaked for it. But it taught me to ask the questions about it to know ahead of time whether or not it would be profitable for my business, and not just to jump at something because it was there. So every single opportunity, whether it's good, bad, or just who cares, is a lesson.
And it's worth taking.
It is. It's 100% worth taking. Take every opportunity you can. Figure it out later. Put it on your credit card.
Well, or someone else's,
Or someone else's.
I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. I learned a lot, actually, and we've been talking like every day for years now. And I just appreciate you, and I thank you for sharing your story. I think that there are a lot of people in similar positions to the girl that went to that mailbox that one day. And I think that they can learn from your story and maybe order from No Regrets Dessert Company. So anyway, thank you.
Awesome.
Bye-byes. But
thank you. Bye-byes.
I do want to say thank you for being the first person that I get to talk to for this podcast.
And there will be many.
Oh, there's going to be so many. Maybe like 4.
Yes. I
Anyway.
mean, 4 is more than it was before.
Exactly. Got to take every opportunity, right?
That's right. Yes.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank
my friend. I appreciate you so very much.
Absolutely.
You've just listened to the Life Shift podcast. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. See you next time.